Hey, welcome to the Relentless Poverty Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Martin. I could barely say the name of my own podcast, but that's all right. It's a little tongue twister. And my guest today, his name's Phebe Trotman, and she's an entrepreneur. She's a decorated athlete. She's the author of Never Quit on a Bad Day, which is an awesome title, by the way. But the thing she is most passionate about is helping others discover their joy. What a great goal. Like, welcome to the show, Phebe.
Thank you so much, Joe. I am thrilled, honored, and just really grateful to be here with you today.
Yeah, glad you didn't stumble over your first sentence. That's much better than me. That's man, you're all
I'm rolling with it. I've been
yeah,
talking for a while
coming out.
today, so we're all good. We're all good.
Yeah, coming out the gates hot. Yeah, she just mentioned before we came on, she's been coaching some soccer this morning, so getting things rolling is always a good way to go. So I brought up in the title of your book. Really just I love the title of that book. So Never Quit on a Bike. It's such a powerful and motivational title. But can you kind of share how you came up with that title from your personal experience?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and thank you so much. It is really a very motivational saying. And I had heard that saying many, many years ago, and it always stuck with me in terms of soccer, entrepreneurship, life, relationships, everything. It really applies to every area of your life. And so when I decided to write a book, and then I knew what I wanted the theme to be, I wanted it to be a collection of short stories. And I really wanted the book to share the story behind the story, because so often we see people's accolades, we see their accomplishments, and then, we might be going through a challenging time and we look at them and we're like, oh, well, they have it easy. And it's like, well, do they really? So I wanted to kind of peel back the layer a little bit so people know they're not alone in their struggles. And yeah, never quit on a bad day. As I said, it's always stuck with me. And so I was like, okay, let's see, if it's available, if the domain name's available, then I know, okay, God, you're saying move forward with this. And if it's not, then maybe I need to, rethink what I do with this book, or what you will. And it was available, and I was like, okay, I guess let's go. We're writing a book, and the topic is going to be, the short stories, and the title Never Quit on a Bad Day. And really, I just wanted anyone who hears that title, whether they ever purchase the book or anything with it, that it'll stick in their mind. And when they're going through those challenges, they'll push through, because greatness is on the other side, and it does stick with you. So
Absolutely. So I have a teenage son, and right. So when he first wakes up in the morning, I'm like, hey, don't judge the rest of your day how you feel right now. It's going to get better. This is the worst part of your day is
absolutely.
waking up, right? So I think people do quit on a bad day. So I think it's a great advice, kind of a life mantra to have, is like it gets better. And you talked about, hey, greatness on the other side. If you stop right here, you're not going to get there. So I mentioned soccer in the beginning too. So how were you first drawn to soccer? How did you get started in soccer?
Yeah, so I started playing soccer when I was 5 years old. I have an older brother, he's 4 years older, and he was playing soccer. And so I was the little sister that had to go to his games with my parents, and I'd be on the sideline, or, doing other things. And I think I just kind of said to them, was like, I want to play too. And so my parents signed me up. And it's interesting because looking back, like I started on an all boys team, and I don't know if it was supposed to be co ed, and I happened to be the only little girl. I don't know if it was supposed to be boys, and they just were like, this is where you're going. I have no idea. But anyways, my first introduction to the sport in terms of organized was at 5 years old on an all boys team. And it was great. I mean, they accepted me. I just played. I love to play, and then continued straight through. And I still play to this day. I love it. I love being on the field. I love the competitiveness. See, now the tongue twisting's coming out, the
There you go.
competitiveness of the
It's
sport,
contagious. Yeah.
with my teammates, and just, everybody having a common goal to win that game, and just giving your all to it. And so it's been an incredible journey. And I'm just grateful for all the lessons and all the experiences I've had because of sport.
I mean, you've had an awesome career. Can you kind of hit me somewhat with some of the highlights of your career? I know you're not bragging. You're just reporting the news right here. Just kind of hit with some of the highlights from your career.
Oh, Joe, really? Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I've been very fortunate. I've played on some incredible teams, so I've had a chance to win national championships on all
Nice.
levels. So starting under 19, university, NAIA, we won the championship there. Then I went on to play in the W League, which at the time was the highest level of women's soccer within North America. And so we won a national championship there. And then I continued playing. And then in Masters, we've had a chance to win two national championships. So it's been incredible. And I mean, within those national championships and just, amazing seasons, I've also had an opportunity to win a lot of personal accolades as well, too. And, as an athlete, especially when you're in a team sport, you want to contribute, right? And so I'm just grateful for the experiences that I've had, and to be able to have those team awards as well as the personal accolades have been amazing as well, too.
Oh, that's really cool, man. It's the personal and the championships together, team wise. Man, that's best of both worlds right there. So a decorated career. I know you don't want to brag on yourself. You're just letting people know. Hey, it's just reporting the news. So that's okay. So I mean, how did that transition go from I know you're still playing, but from being kind of athlete and going more into the entrepreneur world?
Yeah, so when I was working full time as well too, and so I kind of got to this point where I was really bored at my job. I was working as a well, it doesn't even matter. I was just bored at my job. I wasn't learning, I wasn't growing, and I'm a person I like to be challenged, right? And so I started a bunch of side projects while I was working full time, and in my mind, the plan was once my side hustles, whichever one took off or all of them, once the income was high enough, then I'd leave my full time job and I'd be this entrepreneur, etc. And as we know, life, takes twists and turns. And so the company I was working for actually went bankrupt and I was laid off. And so I had this kind of crossroads moment where I was like, okay, well, what do I want to do next? And this is something I always encourage people to do is sort of when you're in those moments, or even ideally before you're in those moments, kind of pause and look forward and be like, what do you want your life to look like? Like, what brings you joy? If you just, there's no limits, just, and write it down, write it in present tense, and just really get in the feeling of what does that look like. And we can go into more detail, a bit more about that. But essentially, what I did was I looked forward and I said, okay, what do I want my life to look like? And I knew I wanted to be able to like have time for my friends and family. I wanted to be able to travel, sort of build a business that I could do anywhere. And so when I looked at kind of my different side hustles, it made sense to focus on one of them, which allowed me to have that kind of flexibility in terms of my schedule and location and whatnot. And so it was a bumpy start to begin because it was literally being thrown into it full time. Before I was just dabbling, if you will. And now it's like, okay, we have bills to pay, let's go. But I'm grateful for it because I learned so many things along the journey. And then it's provided me a chance to, travel all over the world, have a business that I can operate from my phone and my laptop, and just to be able to help people as well, too, which was really important for me, to continue on in that, being able to help people and feel part of a team as well.
Wow. So if you hadn't gotten laid off, how long do you think would be till you really went full bore into this?
Yeah, you know what, Joe? I've thought about that. And I don't know if, here's the thing, like, I do believe sometimes life moves for us in the event that if we're not going to do it, sometimes we'll get the nudge. Like I joke and I'm like, sometimes God's going to push you forward whether you want to or not.
Oh yeah.
Because I probably would have stayed there a lot longer because I was comfortable. That my job was pretty easy. Again, I wasn't learning and growing. However, I was learning and growing in other areas, like on my side hustles. And so I still felt that fulfillment, that reward, the growth. And so it was really easy, if you will, to manage both of those. So I'm sure at some point I would have taken that leap. However, I probably would have stayed there a lot longer.
Oh, I get it. Yeah, they say, desperation creates hustle, right? So you got to make it
Oh,
work.
that's
You got to go,
right.
right? So I used to work for the government, and just one day I came home and told my wife, "Hey, guess what I did today?" And she was like, "What? What did you?" I quit that full time job that pays me every 2 weeks and all the benefits and all that. But I had a side hustle as well, and just man, it made you go full bore. Like so, I heard someone the other day say, if you're on the tightrope and you got a net, guess what? You're gonna fall because you're looking down. It's
Mhm.
like I'll be okay if I fall down there, but if you got to make it work, you got to make it work. So that's awesome. You went there.
Absolutely. Good for you. That's impressive. Well done. I
Yeah,
think
well, you know
that
how scary it is. You were kind of forced into it, so it's a scary thing though. But you'll make it work. So, kids, I don't recommend quitting your jobs out there. Everybody, it works
Yes.
works for some,
Yes.
but
Let's put that note in there. We're not saying to do that. We're just saying that,
yeah,
yeah, I love that desperation creates hustle, right?
it
It's
sure
those
does.
sink or swim moments. And it
Yeah,
really is, those are defining moments, right? And I
for
think it's
sure.
powerful for people to realize like there's so many moments in your life where you have choices and we all have choices and we need to own those. And it is exciting when you stretch yourself, right? When you put yourself in those, I say I got comfortable being uncomfortable. I've
Yeah.
had to learn how to embrace that feeling. And because everything we want is really outside of our comfort zone. That's another quote I love by Neil Donald Walsh. It's every life begins at the edge of your comfort zone.
Oh, for sure.
And really it's like everything you want's outside of it. And you just got to go for it.
Absolutely. So, if you're listening right, you probably can kind of tell. But how did you use your athletic background to kind of go into the entrepreneur world? Do you still use those lessons from coaches and teammates and things like that?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, one of the biggest things with as an athlete in the beginning, here's the thing, at the end of the day, in the beginning, most of the time you're not good at something if it's
Oh
something brand
yeah.
new, right? And that's okay. Like you can have coaches, you can have your teammates, there's people you can learn from. And so that was one thing that I definitely did realize. At first, I was like, oh, I got this. I'll be fine as an entrepreneur, blah, blah, blah. And then I was like not having the results that I wanted. And then it was that accountability piece, which is another big
Mhm.
piece with athletes is like you got to look in the mirror and have those gut check moments. And because in the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey, because I was like, oh, this is sweet. I have a flexible schedule. So I'd like work for one day, take two off, then I'd work
Yep.
again, and then work, I was very inconsistent. So guess what? My results were really inconsistent. Then you have that accountability moment. You look in the mirror and it's like, well, wait a second. If I'm doing inconsistent activity, of course I'm going to get inconsistent results. It's the same thing as an athlete. If you're going to the gym and working out 1 week, then you take 3 weeks off and then you go again, when it comes down to performance and game time, you're not going to have the result you want to have. And so that was a lesson, realizing that, you know what, sometimes you can give everything your all in a game, you can work your tail off and you still might not win. And guess what? As an entrepreneur, you can do everything and go and go and go. And sometimes you still might not get the result that you want in that moment. So you have to trust the process. You have to embrace it. Do the activities consistently that you know will get the results. It may not happen in your timing. So that's why you have to embrace that process and get comfortable with that piece and do the things that are going to get you the results that you want. Because as an athlete, we see athletes in the game and we're like, wow, amazing. But it's all the stuff they did outside of the game, off the soccer field, off the basketball court, all the activities that are happening that we don't see is why they're able to perform when they're on the field. And it's the same thing as an entrepreneur. You see people with their awards and this and that and, results. However, do you see all the activities that they're doing consistently on a day-to-day basis, even when they don't feel like it,
Oh,
to
yeah.
get the result that they want because you're committed?
Man, you just dropped some gems right there. If people are listening right now, that's what I love about sports. I just look at it as a tool for teaching kids. Right? They can mean so many life lessons on those courts and sports fields out there. So, like you said, they're not all going to go to the NBA, NFL, Major League Soccer, all those good things. But man, you can learn so many lessons, and you've put it in, and it's making you money now. So if you, that's the real deal right there. So if there are maybe some young athletes that are getting out of college and they're ready to maybe start a career or an entrepreneurial journey, something like that, how would you suggest they do that kind of career life balance? Because you said I wanted, I want a balanced life. So how did you do that? How would you suggest people start on that?
Yeah, and I think balanced life in some ways is balance. It is going to swing in the sense of, it depends what your goals are. It depends what your priorities are. At times, like as an athlete, I am head down focused. That's, we have a big game. I'm training for it. That is where I'm at. Now, is that super balanced? Not necessarily. However, I'm okay with it because it's taking me to where I want to go. So one of the things, if someone is an athlete, they're transitioning, I always say, like, look for success leaves clues. So
Yeah.
look for someone who has sort of a lifestyle, maybe a career that you would like to enter in, and pick their brain. Ask them if you can take them for lunch. Now, understand everyone has busy schedules and whatnot, but is there someone who can be a bit of a mentor for you that you can get a little bit of insight or offered your services? Hey, I just want to learn from you. How can I help you? If someone, for example, if someone wants to have a podcast, right? Reaching out to someone like yourself, Joe, and being like, hey, I'm really interested in having a podcast. The key is you have to look to give first. So, for example, I would say, hey, Joe, I love what you're doing. How can I learn? Is there something I can do to help you with your podcast so I can also learn while I'm doing this at the same time, right? Look to add that value first. But I really believe it's about, finding people who have lifestyles that you want, finding out how they did it. There's so many resources out there in terms of like podcasts, YouTube's, workshops. There's so many resources at our fingertips. So it's really just kind of, and taking that time for yourself to go, well, what do you want your life to look like, right? People are passionate about so many different avenues. And it's a chance for you, especially if you're just getting out of college, to kind of go, what makes me happy? What do I want to do? And realize in the beginning, you might have to grind for a bit,
Yeah.
right? Like there's some grinding involved, and that's okay. Do it while you're young. Grind, figure out what you love so that you can set yourself up for success in later years, if you will.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, if you're looking to start a podcast, first learn how to say the name of your own podcast. That's step one.
And be open. Hello. Be
Yeah.
open to realize, hey, none of us are perfect. We're all
Yeah,
figuring
that's
it
all
out.
right. You just keep rolling though. That's what
Keep
it's
going.
important. That's it. So your book is all about resilience and overcoming adversity and never quitting on a bad day. So I'm sure that's happened a few times. And can you share some experience that you had in your life with those?
Oh man, you know what? Here's the thing. Bad days and moments and season. it's part of the journey. So the biggest thing that I always tell people listening, like, just realize bad days are going to happen. There's going to be those tough moments. The key is, how do you move through them? How do you grow from them? And what do you do next, right? What is in your control, and to focus on that. And it's funny because I'm working on the next book in the series right now. And I share in that book a story about when I was really discouraged as an athlete. And it was because, I'll give you guys the short version, but essentially I didn't make a team. I got cut from a team in the first round, and I was devastated. Like, I cried. And basically my parents kind of, I think, got to a point, because I was in the basement crying my eyes out for however long, that it was just like that moment where they were like, well, what do you want to do now? Like, what do you want to do? It's up to you. Like, do you want to let one coach's decision stop you from playing the sport? Do you want to keep going? Like, it's up to you. And that was tough to hear in that moment, because I was, around 13, 14 years old. That being said, it hit me where now it was like, yeah, what can I control? And so it really was, in hindsight, such a defining, pivotal moment in my life, because going forward, I made some decisions that summer that I was going to be an impact player, that whatever team I was going to be on, I was going to, like, make my presence known, and that I'd be grateful for every opportunity. Because at the time I didn't really, again, you can read it in more detail later on, but I didn't see that moment as much as I could have. And so now it's like, any moment I'm given on the field, I'm going to make the most of it. And so that's just carried through in terms of my career as an athlete as well as an entrepreneur. And that was such a huge lesson. And then I've had, many bad days as an entrepreneur. So that could be a whole show on its own. Well, that could be multiple shows on its own.
Oh, absolutely.
You will.
Man, it's a roller coaster for sure. But
That's right.
man,
You
so
get it. You get it.
yeah. So if
You
there's
think-
kids, or if you have kids or athletes that are listening right now, hey, this is a multi-time national champion, award-winning player. They got cut from her team, and then she didn't let it define her. I mean, that's huge. I think some people, they do stop. Not just that's their bad day and they quit the sport entirely. I think people get to that point a lot. You see kids are quitting in record numbers in a lot of sports these days, and then that could be a whole episode as well. But just having those parents that probably like, okay, what are we going to do about it? That's what my parents did. That's what we did with my son when he was basketball, and he was, I'm the worst one on the team and all these. Well, like, what do you want to do about it? Do you want to get better, or you want to quit? And he made the right choice. But you got to get to that kind of dividing line where you want to go from here. So that's great. And thank you for sharing. A lot of people, like you said earlier, they see these athletes on the field like, oh, they've always been good at this. This is not easy. This is not a struggle for them. It looks easy, but hey, there's a lot of hours behind that. So thanks for sharing that. So it kind of a related question. So how important is it to have that support system, especially when you are going through those bad days?
Oh yeah, support system is so key. We talk about it in the book. It's something that I'm just so passionate about it, because yeah, if your support system, I mean, I talk about, they can either be a propeller or they can be an anchor, in the sense that people that you're in your network can either push you forward. Like, let's say, for example, you share your goal or dream with someone. Are they going like, oh my gosh, Joe, yes, go get it. That's awesome. Or are they like, well, Joe, remember when this happened, and how are you going to do
Oh,
this? And da, 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 da. Like, that's
yeah,
an anchor, right? Like, and again, a lot of times they're people closest to us, and they may love us and they want to do it. They might be saying it with the best intentions to protect us. That being said, be careful who you share your dreams with, right? And if you're listening and you don't feel like you have a supportive network of people who you can, reach out to, who have your back, now's the time to start creating it, being intentional with it, and thinking like, start to be that propeller for someone else. And in turn, you'll naturally be able to create your own circle of people who are going to pour into your dreams as well too. Because again, let's say I'm so grateful for my parents, and my parents put in the work in terms of their personal development, their growth. Because if they had said something different, they might have, what if my parents went, you know what, that isn't right, that isn't fair, you should have made the team, of
yeah,
course you should have made the team, you're the best player on this team, and that, my life would have been completely different, right? Because in that moment, if we sat there and focused on, this isn't fair, it isn't right, yada, 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 yeah, let's just quit. Well, I'm the one who has to live with that
yeah.
impact, right? And so you want those people in your network who are going to pour into you, who are going to support you, who are, when you're having the tough day, they can be the one to lift you up. Maybe there's times, even myself, there's times where I have doubts. I'm a human being, right? Even in writing this book, where I was like, I've never written a book. I
Yeah.
didn't even really want to write a book in the first, like, so, but I had, once I was like, yeah, let's do this, I shared it with a few key people. And even the moments when I may have had a little bit of like doubt and just kind of questioning, they're the ones who reminded me, like, hey, Phebe Trotman, you know who you are? You know what you're able to do? And they poured in. So it is important. And just, I encourage people, be intentional with it, right? And really create a strong network of people who you have their back. Again, look to give first. You have their back and they have yours in turn.
Man, everybody needs a hype man or hype woman in their life, right?
Yes,
That
right?
that unconditional supporter, man. Everyone needs that. So, and if you don't have one, go be with someone else, right? And maybe so that's so important to have in your life because there will be doubts. I was the same way when I was writing book. I can barely spell. I'm not gonna lie, even with spell check. Sometimes I can't even get close enough. I run and start to even get like it won't even suggest anything. That's how bad I am spelling. But hey, man, if someone else has done it before, then you can do it before, right? Uh,
Absolutely.
so you've shown it today in this interview, but how do you've kind of got this amazing balance of vulnerability but also strength, which is really impressive. So how do you do that with how does that in your so important in your own personal growth that you've shown?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think one of the biggest things is just being honest and leading from your heart, right? At the end of the day, we're all humans. We all have a heart. Everyone wants to be loved. Everyone wants to feel, appreciated. And everyone, the more I think we share just some of our journey and struggles. And I'm not saying, you pour it all out right then and there. Sometimes you need, I'm going through a personal situation right now. And it's like, I'm not right yet ready. See, now I'm tongue twisted again. I'm
Man, it's
not
contagious.
there
I'm sorry.
yet,
I'm sorry.
to go into a lot of detail with it, but I will. And I think that's just something that's important, is to let people know, look, you're not alone in your struggles, because the more we start sharing that, then people do realize, oh my gosh, what you went through, I had no idea, and it connects you, it brings you closer to people. I think when people see that, you're a human, you get bruised and sad and bumped and disappointed, we all go through it. We're just seeing people on different stages of their journey, right? This wasn't, before I wouldn't have, and actually, even sharing the story of getting cut from a team, I really didn't share that for years. Not that I was hiding it, it just, I never really felt a need. And then I was helping out with some evaluations, and, we were talking about it with the players there. And then I was like, hey, just so you know, like, I got cut from a team. And they're all like, what? Like, they didn't, because they had heard, they heard all the whatever stats, if you will. And I was like, yeah, I got cut from a team. And they just were like so shocked by it. And it was in that moment that I realized, like, how important it is to start sharing that, because people, again, will see whatever they want to see, letting people know, like, hey, I went through a really tough, like, when my dad passed, I was in a fog. You could see me out and I would be happy, like, not a beat, if you will, and I could put it, but when I came home, I was in a low, like, it was
Yeah.
a very tough time. Then people are like, oh wait, well, how did you? Well, I just chose to keep going because I knew that's what he would want me to do. And I knew that's what I had to do in terms of moving forward. So I had to, and it was a choice. It was a choice. I shouldn't say I had to. I chose to do that because I knew it would help me grow. So when you start letting people know that, then they also know, okay, I can push through this too. I can get to the other side. Like, as you just said, if someone else did it, I can do it too. And so I just feel like the more we start, again, sharing a little bit of that, how much ever someone feels comfortable with sharing. And it, a lot of times I wouldn't even been able to say what I just said with my dad 5 years ago, would have burst down in tears.
Yeah.
Podcast is over, let's go, I'm out, right? But you grow and you start to realize sometimes in sharing, and this is where it's like, then I feel like if it can help someone else, then when you're at a place to be able to do that, then that's the time to do it. And again, that's super personal for every single person, depending on where they are at with whatever they're going through.
Oh, absolutely. I appreciate you sharing that as well. So I know this is relentless positivity, but I got a little bit of hater in me, just a little bit of hater in me. So do you ever feel like you should like send that coach that cut you like a little autograph picture of you winning some awards or something? I mean, just to check in on him. I mean,
It's so funny. I don't even, so the head coach of who essentially had the final team, I know who that was. And it's funny because we had connected later on in life and I still was like, really? But it wasn't really his, just like in terms of the team environment, it was someone else. And I don't even know who it is. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting because things happen the way they should. But yeah, it was
yeah.
a horrible experience. It was tough. Those
I
tears.
hope he followed your career. closer.
Hopefully,
Hopefully. Yeah.
hopefully, hopefully.
Yeah.
But he might be like, well, I can take credit because I forced her in that challenging spot.
Maybe. You
And
never know. You never know. Sometimes you get that chip on your shoulder. It helps for sure. So.
yeah, absolutely.
So let's say there is a kid, maybe they just got cut from their team or they just got some bad grades, some bad news, something like that. What would you say to someone that's kind of they're going through that and they don't know where to turn, they don't know which step to take next?
Yeah, so I mean, if you got cut from a team or bad grades, I mean, there's multiple pieces. First, did you give it everything you could? Like, did you truly give it everything you could? And if you did, okay, cool. That's one part. Because if you did, then we're gonna go in a different little lane if you did. If you didn't, well, here's the tough love. How come you didn't?
Mm,
Why didn't you? Because you have an opportunity and make the most of it. And it's okay. What's done is done. However, the next time you go into that situation, give it everything you have, right? If you got a bad grade, study hard, right? School, cut some time out, get rid of the phone for a moment, focus, or ask for help. If you're struggling in school, ask for help, right? It's okay to ask for help. There's strength in asking for help. So my first part is, did you give it everything? If you did do all that, you studied hard, you had help, you worked out hard, you trained, you went to this evaluation, you gave it everything you can. Okay, you're not there yet, but add yet to that. And now what can you do? Right? Can you train harder? Maybe you need another coach, right? Maybe you, again, when I got cut, that was like, okay, I want to play. So me and my ball in the backyard, either with my older brother, with my dad, or by myself. I had that ball all the time practicing. I looked to see, okay, how can I get better? And then it's also your attitude. And it's really, in terms of school, get good grades. In terms of athletics, well, you have to decide, is that the sport you really want? And if it is, put in the work, right? Put in the work, give it everything you had. And when it is your time, it will be the time for you. And trusting that even on, I live in Vancouver, BC, even on a rainy day when I'm out running and I really don't want to, trust the process, right? You have to trust those things that are going to get you there and know that it will happen. It might not happen in the time you want. It might not happen in the exact way you want. However, if you truly put in the work, you give it everything you have, the result will come.
Man, that's a bunch of nuggets right there. I hope y'all are paying attention. If nothing else, remember this word she said, yet. That is such a big word that she dropped right there that so many people say, I'm bad, I can't do this or something like that. Maybe you can't right now. But if you train, like she talked about, you put in the work, guess what? You can get there. The yet is a huge word that some people leave out. You just start adding that in a little bit, man, it can change your life. I
It's a
promise you
game
that.
changer. It totally
Absolutely.
is, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Man, I could tell you're a coach. You got that coach vibe about you. So let me ask you this: can you talk about the new book and when it's coming out or anything like that?
Yeah, I'm so excited about this new book because it's going to hit a lot of the stuff that we're talking about today in terms of just the mindset of an athlete and kind of I believe, first of all, I believe everyone's a champion. Okay. It might not be a champion in terms of athletics or school or your career. However, we all have wins that deserve to be celebrated. We all can be the champion of our life. And that's what the book is. So it's featuring stories from accomplished athletes. It's not a book about sports. So I want to make sure people understand that, yes, these are athletes. So there is some sports, it's what they do, if you will. However, it's not a book for athletes. It's not a book for only this type of, it really is a book for anyone who's had goals and dreams and ever felt frustrated, disappointed, deflated. It's the same theme of never quit on a bad day. We just now talk about it a little bit more in the sense of a champion. Like, what is that mindset of a champion? What are some of the characteristics and attributes of a champion? That grit, that determination, that passion going for it. So it's coming. We're in the final stages of it. So look for it in May.
Oh,
Coming
awesome!
soon.
Right around
Oh
the
yeah,
corner. That's awesome.
right
Uh,
around the corner.
yeah, I'll
That's the
tell you
first
this.
time I said the actual month.
Ah,
So
you
you
get a
get it
little
first.
feeling in your stomach when you said that.
It's just
Get a little
exciting.
excitement, a little excitement.
I'm
Yeah,
super
I
excited.
get it.
Really
Yeah.
come together some incredible athletes with just awesome stories. And again, there's lessons in there for everybody. So I'm really excited to get it
Oh,
into the
absolutely.
hands of people.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it over and over again that sports lessons lead to life successes. I mean, it happens over and over, and I can't wait to check out that book because that's what people say. This is what it transfers. That's the best part about it. So, what's the best place for people to keep up with you?
Yeah, so I'm available on Instagram and Facebook and Never Quit on a Bad Day. Also, my website is just www.neverquitonabadday.com. So you can check it out there, or Phoebe Trotman as well as my personal page for Facebook as well as Instagram.
Awesome. Well, you killed it today. I know people are going to pick up the book and the one coming out in May as well. So, if you're listening right now, please share this episode. There's so many things that can help people in this episode. Maybe it's a young athlete who's struggling, or maybe you just started a new career, or you just come out of college. There's lots of things you can help people out with here. And Phoebe's doing out great work out in the world, and more people need to know about what she's doing. Follow her on the social media. I'll put that in the show notes. You can just click on stuff and go follow her. All the good things she has coming on, and be ready for that book release. So, Phoebe, thank you so much for coming on. Thanks for what you're doing out in the world.
Thank you, Joe. Well, right back at you, right? It takes people stepping out, going after their goals and dreams. And when they do that, other people get inspired, and it's that ripple effect. So thank you for everything that you're doing to inspire, uplift, and spread that message of positivity.
I love it. You're a perfect guest for the show. Thank you so much for coming on. Hey, please share this episode, spread the positivity, and we'll see you guys next week on the Relentless Positivity Podcast. Oh, I nailed it that time.
Yes.